So, what if I told you that in 2026, AI is doing two things at once? It's hitting this massive, unexpected wall, but at the same time, it's quietly taking over the world. Sounds like a total paradox, right? But that's exactly what's going on. This is the year where the futuristic hype is kind of fading, and instead, we're dealing with the messy, super complicated reality of actually putting AI to work. And trust me, understanding this tale of two futures is the only way to really get a grip on where we're all headed.
All right, so to unpack this whole thing, we're going to look at 5 key shifts that are all happening at once. First, we'll dive right into that big contradiction. Then, we'll talk about how AI is literally becoming your new digital teammate. After that, we'll see how it's jumping off the screen and into the real world. We'll even peek under the hood at the engines making it all happen. And to wrap it all up, we'll get into the most critical part, building the guardrails to keep it all in check. Okay, first up, that central paradox. You see all these headlines, right? And they're totally contradictory. Is AI hitting a wall, or is it just taking over everything? Well, the crazy thing about 2026 is that the answer is yes. Both are true.
So, on one hand, you've got the year of delays. It's like the brakes are being slammed on. These huge, ambitious AI projects are running into real-world physical limits. I mean, you can't just snap your fingers and create a massive data center. You need power, you need land, you need permits. The hype train is definitely slowing down. But at the exact same time, there's this other story, the year of adoption. While the giants are dealing with those bottlenecks, smaller, practical AI is just being quietly woven into everything, all the software we use every single day. And it's sparking this explosion of startups that are going from zero to $1 billion valuation in what feels like a blink of an eye.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, that whole dream of some magical, all-powerful AGI showing up next year, yeah, that's being put on ice. The entire industry is getting a serious reality check. The consensus is shifting. We're now talking about the 2030s at the earliest. And that shift is forcing everyone to ask a much better, much more practical question. Okay, what can we actually build with the super powerful but not magical AI we have today? And that focus on the here and now, it leads us straight to the biggest change you're probably going to feel personally. It's a full-on revolution happening right inside the software you use. And it all comes down to this idea that's finally breaking out of the lab and onto our computers, something called Agentic AI. So what the heck is Agentic AI? Well, think of it like this. It's the difference between having a calculator and having a chief of staff. A calculator just sits there, right? It's a passive tool. It waits for you to tell it what to do. But an AI agent, that's an active partner. You don't just tell it write an email. No, you give it a goal, like, hey, plan the quarterly sales kickoff. And it goes and does it. It figures out the steps. It checks people's calendars. It drafts the presentation, all on its own, with you just supervising. And this quote from Richard Socher, it just absolutely nails the human part of this whole change. We are all, and I mean every single one of us, becoming managers of these new digital teammates. You know, the most important skill in this new world isn't going to be coding. It's going to be learning how to delegate effectively, how to build trust with your AI, and this is the big one, knowing when it's messing up and you can't trust. You know, this is completely changing what an office team even means. These aren't just fancy personal assistants anymore. They are becoming true digital colleagues, showing up right alongside us in our collaborative tools. And the really smart companies? They're figuring out it's way better to license a whole crew of specialized agents, you know, one for finance, one for marketing, one for sales, and then create this kind of mesh where they all work together to run entire workflows. But get this whole revolution isn't just staying inside our software. Oh no, AI is actually leaving the screen. It's breaking out of its digital cage and stepping into the physical world. This is the year of what we call embodied AI, and it's a huge deal. For the first time, AI is learning through real-world motion and interaction. It's learning like a human does, by trying something, failing, and then physically adjusting. And believe me, that is 1,000,000 times harder than just reading all the text on the internet. And just look at this. I mean, what's so wild here isn't that one company is doing it. It's that all of these companies are hitting major commercial milestones right now. For years, humanoid robots from places like Tesla and Boston Dynamics were just cool lab experiments, right? Well, now they're actually being shipped out and put to work in factories and warehouses. This isn't a science fair project anymore. This is the real deal. And if you're thinking, okay, this is still just sci-fi, you gotta see this. A whopping 77% of people in the tech industry believe that humanoid robots are going to become commonplace coworkers by 2026. Not in 10 years, this year. The shift isn't coming. It's already here. Okay, so we've got these incredible AI teammates in our software and actual robots walking around. But what's powering all this? Well, this huge explosion in AI is creating an equally huge problem. We're talking about a foundational crisis.
And here's where we circle right back to that whole year of delays thing we talked about. The problem is a massive energy bottleneck. AI's enormous appetite for computing power is running headlong into the simple reality of our power grids and water supplies. We are hitting a very, very real wall.
So what's the solution? Well, the hardware folks are scrambling. Take NVIDIA's new Rubin platform. This isn't just another faster chip. They're calling it an AI factory. It's a totally integrated system designed from the ground up to tackle this energy problem. And their goal? To slash the cost of running these huge AI models by up to 10 times. It's all about making this stuff practical and affordable at a massive scale.
And it's not just a hardware fix either. The actual architecture, the very brain of AI, is getting an upgrade. You see, the current generation of AI runs on something called transformers, and they're amazing at predicting the next word, right? They're like perfect mimics. But their big weakness? They don't really get what they're talking about. The next generation, with things like JPA and world models, is totally different. The goal isn't just to mimic, it's to build an internal understanding of how the world actually works. It's the difference between memorizing your lines and actually understanding the play.
All right, so with all this insane new power, both in our software and in the real world, we're left with a final and honestly the most critical piece of the puzzle, building the guardrails. Because with all this autonomy, you have to ask the big question, who is actually in control? And that question is forcing a massive shift across the entire industry. This isn't a philosophical debate anymore. When you have AI making its own decisions, things like security, compliance, and ethics become urgent, real-world engineering problems.
And that means governance is making a huge leap. It's going from something that was an afterthought to a central pillar of AI development. And with actual regulations like the EU AI Act becoming a reality, companies are realizing this isn't optional. Building safe, accountable AI isn't just about ethics anymore. It's about embedding those principles right into the code, because it's becoming a requirement to do business. So in the end, 2026's tale of two AIs is really a story about assimilation. It's this messy, complicated, but absolutely world-changing process of weaving this technology into our lives. We're living through both the frustrating limits and the amazing new tools being built. And that leaves us with the big question to chew on. Which story is going to define our future? The limits we're facing, or the incredible things we're building?